be that the prom location discussions.
Okay. That's what I need.
Prom could be K, right?
Yeah, prom can be K. And closed session will be after the upcoming meeting schedule.
Yep.
All right, is there any other amendments? Hearing none, is there a motion to be made to approve the agenda as approved, amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Director Lang and seconded by Director Bauman to approve the agenda as amended. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And I'll abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Okay. Appreciation, recognition, and presentations.
So tonight we have Mr. Goldaddy here to present our student winners. Want to tell a little bit about them?
Yes, so this is our FFA milk quality team. This is their second year competing with the three of them on a team, right? Last year at the state competition, they got second place. So far, we've had a regional competition. It was 2 weeks ago. They won by a landslide, taking first place, and individually, in order, starting with Olivia, they took first, second, and third by like 100 points. I think Joseph was ahead of the last person. So, or the next person. So they are very excited and ready to go to the state competition, which will be at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus in the end of April, around April 20th or so. And at this competition, they had to identify cheese. So they had 10 cheeses they had to taste and identify, and also say what like fat content was in the cheese, or maybe how it was made. There are some facts about that. They had to correctly identify dairy versus non-dairy products. So there was non-dairy like squirt whipping cream that you like put on cake or something. There was heavy cream, 1% milk, coffee creamer, margarine, butter. That was a bunch of them. And then they also took a 120 point written exam. They did a team problem and had to, what's the one I'm forgetting? The defects. They had to taste milk and figure out if it was sour. So like they had to drink sour milk. If it was oxidized, if it had foreign material in it, so that had vanilla, had a little bit of vanilla. If it was salty, if it had feed, which had molasses or was chunky, and so they had a lot of dairy that day.
It's not supposed to be chunky.
No, not supposed to be chunky. But they're very excited. They definitely know what they're doing. They just told me what to show up with at practice. I brought a lot of milk and made all these little concoctions for them to try. And yeah, so it's been very easy to coach them because they already know what they're doing because they've been doing it for a few years now. So we'll be going to the state competition in April.
All right.
Oh, congratulations. We have certificates for you.
Yes.
And then we'd love to get a picture of you with the school board members.
Yeah, you gotta come over to this
Yeah,
side
come
though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see.
Come on, kids, stand in the middle. And we'll surround.
Tasting milk is fun at your house.
Great.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
And I understand there's nothing meeting.
There is, it's right now. So
Go.
go and run that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Congratulations. Thank you for representing our school. Yeah. All right. Other recognition and presentations? All right, recognition of citizens for input purposes. Anybody? Okay, moving on. Reports and news, board committee reports. Who wants to start on this one? Mary does.
Mid-stage.
Yep.
Everything's going well. They are looking for some paras again. That usually happens for some reason. A lot of transition during this time of year. I don't quite know why, but I think they get other positions, and so there's a lot of that. But otherwise, everything there is going very well. They've been able to keep, they budgeted a certain amount for building maintenance because some damage does get done. So that's been pretty well taken care of, and during the holidays, then if there's any major stuff, the crew just gets in there, does it, fixes it, and off they go. So it's kind of an amazing place, and I would recommend all board members to at least take a little bit of time, call ahead, and say you'd just like to see what they do and how they do it. Because there are some of our students there, and they do fairly well, and I think it's kind of a unique place to see and be.
All right. Other board reports, committee reports? Policy met. We did the first reading on, what numbers were they here? 206, 413, 401, 102, 406, 425, 503, 507, and 534, and 902. The big things that we had was we had some policies that were redundant. You'll see that 430 and 431 are redundant, so we're going to request to rescind them. Otherwise, no major changes yet. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look through them, get back to policy. All right. Finance? Nothing? Tomorrow. That it? All right. So superintendent's report.
We will be having, our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow night, and we will be presenting our World's Best Workforce Summary that will be submitted to the state in December. And also get some input for strategies on goals for this year. That will be on Tuesday night here in this room at 6. We will have the World's Best Workforce Committee meeting on Wednesday. I believe we're moving it to this room at 6 o'clock, and we'll go through that summary report as well, and then get input for strategies on how to meet the goals for this year. I'm proud to say that Michelle, I'm so glad she's in her position, was able to get out a nice Q&A to all of our new staff. And if they chose to participate, they certainly wasn't mandatory, but they could answer some questions about themselves. We got that up on our website and Facebook and social media outlets. So kind of nice to another welcome for new people and help us all get to know each other a little bit better. I will tell you, we're excited. We start our section play this week. So we have volleyball on Thursday. We're not sure who we play yet, or we just know it's away. Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, excuse me, is our football game. We got a bye because we ended up being first in our conference. So we're really excited about that. So it's at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Should be a lovely day. Make you feel like a college game. It'll be fun. And then I just wanted to update the school board as well. As you know, we were given a request for a Freedom of Information Act data request. I did meet with our attorney. It's quite broad, the request, with no start date. Therefore, some of us integral people to this work will meet with the attorney tomorrow, and the firm will handle that for us after we do a lot of legwork initially providing them information. That will take a lot of time from tech and business manager and myself. Then it will go to them. And he's thinking that will cost in excess of $15,000. He has seen them up as far as $40,000 in cost because of just the sheer number of documents, and in this type of broad request, that's possible. So I just want to make sure the board knows that, because that is an expense that we didn't budget for, of course. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that when you see that come through, that's out there.
No, this would be taken out of our overall budget, so it's actually taking away from our students.
Right, will come out of the general fund.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right. Principals report?
We're getting ready for parent conferences coming up on 4th. And Tony DeBell has been working on a couple of projects. He's put curbing in on our playground to help with the water spillage over to the neighbor's yard. So we've got curb cement going east and west, and then a little bit north and south. We haven't had a really good rain to test it out, but I think that was needed. Water and leaves for a few years now have been spilling into the neighbor's yard by the playground. And then we also got a front entrance put in, shouldn't say front entrance, an awning on the south entrance. So the pretty simple design because things are so expensive, but an awning and then a Royalton Elementary sign to identify what that south entrance is. And this Wednesday, I'm taking a group of teachers to the Early Literacy Learning Academy at Sourcewell. So we have teachers from kindergarten first, second, and then our reading support teacher and our Title I teacher to learn about strategies for working with children in reading.
I have just like to recognize Autumn Shanerock was the September Student of the Month at Royalton High School. I will bring in all 3 fall students of the month next month for recognition at the board. But she was a very good selection in September. And then we are preparing for parent-teacher conferences. Our parent-teacher conferences are this Thursday night, 5 to 8:30, and families can sign up on Family Access for an appointment with whatever teachers they'd like to visit with. And after speaking with teachers today, there's still some slots available, but they are filling. So if people want to schedule a conference with the teachers, they can go ahead and Family Access and do that. That's all I got.
Perfect. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. The board is consenting to approve the items listed below as presented at one time. At any point, a director can pull off an item or pull an item off of the consent agenda for further discussion. Is there a motion to approve or to move this consent agenda?
So moved.
A second. Is moved by Director Roaring. No, it was moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Roaring to approve all items on the consent agenda. They include the board minutes from September 27th, the claims, accounts, and financials, the approval of new hires, and approval of FMLA leaves. Any discussion? What's that? I missed something?
Yep.
Oh, approval of resignations, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. Discussion, information, and action items. Enrollment presentation.
Hello, everybody.
Hello?
And I'm gonna give you the latest update on our projected enrollment for 21-22 school year. Starting with September numbers, obviously, that was our first month of doing business as the new school year. I'm gonna advance to the next slide. So what we have here is, I run a report out of our Skyward system. And I match it to a Mars 15 report to see how close or how far we are off with our numbers. So what we had in our Skyward report, dated, it was actually the end of day, September 30th, was kindergarten through 12th grade. That's where we get our funding numbers through. We don't get any preschool numbers unless they are early childhood, and we don't get that till the end of the year. So from our Skyward totals, that's our everyday butts and seats type of situation. It showed that we had 928 students in the building. Now keep in mind, those are not weighted factors, and those are actual, like if they came late and rolled late, they're still counted as a full ADM for the in Skyward. So it's kind of a skewed number until we get further into like November, December. So that's just actual pupils and seats in our Skyward attendance module. Go to the next. So basically, we run our very first Mars submission happens at about the third week of September. And we reported actually 905.8 actual enrolled students. So now you're going to start seeing the 0.8s is the people that came late or are enrolled late and weren't here for the full month. So that's where you're starting to see those numbers. They're noting that there were errors that did not count towards the average daily membership, and the errors were due to students moving from age 6 to age 7, and that the building secretary at the elementary will correct once the special ed department makes those changes in the SPED data. They were still assessing children, and that usually it can take up to 3 to 4 weeks for them to get through all their assessments and get all that corrected. So we had about six kids that were affected that way when the age changes. Mars, you have to change it from kindergarten, early childhood into that first grade. So that's just one of the parameters that we have to fix in Mars. So with the weighted factor taken into consideration, the average daily membership, which is ADMs for the first fall submission, that were 993.36 pupils. From the ADM trend from last fiscal year, it appears that we're going to be approximately close to the same ending ADMs, average daily memberships, that we ended last fiscal year, which are between 1010 and 1015. So we had 2 less students in the first Mars submission last year. So we're seeing the same trend. So next slide. So now we're going to get into some revenue projection. If you don't have any questions on enrollments, are there any questions on the enrollment? September is kind of like a catch month. People are still coming in late, they're enrolling late. So September is one of those months that we don't really have a good grasp on what our enrollment is. You're going to start seeing that more towards the end of October, November. You're going to start seeing that. By October 12th, we have to have a good count, because that's where our compensatory dollars come from for free and reduced. So we're hoping we have a good handle on where our enrollment is on October 12th, but it doesn't always happen. We're hoping. And then we have to, by the end of November, because we have to have a December 1 count for special ed. So by December 1, we have to have a really good count on our fall numbers. So very important to make sure our Mars data is 100% accurate. So if there aren't any questions on enrollment, we'll move on to the budget projections. Okay. So we're going to go into the revenue budget projections for our working budget. And this is data through September 30th. So this is everything I've accumulated through the end of last month. All expenses, payroll, everything that through the end of last month. And I do that because I don't have bank rec done for October. Cash isn't balanced because we're still in October. So the actual module is long and complicated. So I back into the module using a spreadsheet, which is supposed to be on the next slide, but I decided not to do that because it's long and complicated. So this is a fluid budget, excuse me, and will change as the year progresses. In March of 2022, the budget will get revised in case there may be potential upcoming financial changes the district may need to address. And sometimes that should always happen in March because April, there's the deadline for in case the district needs to reduce teaching staff. That's by statute. So it's imperative that districts have a revised budget by March to address those any financial changes. The revenue projection for the budget will be based on 1,011 APUs, adjusted pupil units. So, or ADMs. So we will, that's what I based this budget off of, and it didn't change from the adopted. Go ahead. So the budget expense projection, working budget, it's the same parameter, it goes through September 30th. So the analysis of the budgeted expenses by fund. This analysis will entail a spreadsheet of detailed expenses for the general fund, Fund 1, of unrestricted fund balance of, which is our 422 fund, which is the unreserved. It's our operating fund, that's where we do all our business. And then the general fund with all the fund balances, including all our restricted funds, such as operating capital, long-term facilities maintenance, staff development, all those restricted funds in that general fund. We will also analyze budgets in Fund 2, which is our food service fund, and Fund 4, which is our community service fund. So I started with our unreserved fund, which is our 422, which is our operating fund. I always start with this because that's our main checkbook where we do all our business. So I did calc our revenue, all our aid off of our revenue projection model. And I will tell a little thing about what MDE does, Minnesota Department of Education. They don't update this module twice a year. So I had last year's module up until they just updated it like in first part of September. So when I did the adopted budget, they were still running forecasts off last year. So you're always going to see a little bit of a disparity off of what last year is versus this year, even though we're running adopted budget. It's just how MDE works. So I did separate this time by a lot more descriptive detail because I want you guys to see how this is breaking down. I did do our district aid and levies and our fees. That's all our aid, levy, and fees. So I projected $7.853 million in aid, levy, and our local fees, like our levies, our local tax. We could have donations. We could have miscellaneous revenue. We have entry fees, gate fees. That all goes in that little pot of money there. So then this year, I moved over from last year. We got some gear dollars, actually 2 years ago, because we didn't use it. We got it in May of 2 years ago, 2 fiscal years, and we haven't spent it all. We have $12,591 left that has to be expensed this year. So that's gear dollars, that's technology dollars for technology gear for student distant learning. So that has to be expensed. We do have that budget all the revenues here, and we have expensed it. So we have ESSER dollars that came in May, 155. That was ESSER 2. We got 283,165. We didn't actually get it. It got assigned to us, but we have to expense it first, and then we get reimbursed. So all these federal dollars that I'm talking about right now, they are like draw dollars. So we're always expense based. We have to expense these out of our general fund. We expense it, then we ask the Minnesota Department of Education for reimbursement because they hold the federal funds on behalf of each district. So you don't just get the pot of money, you have to expense it.
It's just like asking for forgiveness, right?
Exactly. So and that's part of the audit process. You want to make sure that they want to make sure you're spending it correctly also. So ESSER 3, which we've done a lot of talking about, this year I have expensed $407,930 because there's contingency dollars that don't get put on this year's budget. So that's why there's $407,000 budgeted and not the full dollar amount. ESSER 3, the learning loss is $77,925. And of that, because we do have contingency and there's year two money on, I believe it's one of the, I think it's the interventionist. So we have 2 years worth of monies can't budget second year because we're in this year's budget. So then of this unrestricted or unreserved dollars, we have of this unreserved pot, we have unreserved restricted dollars that come off of that basic allowance, which is basic skills, which is our compensatory. The state says, I'm giving you this money, but you have to use some of this as basic skills for actually reading, basic skills reading, and it's usually geared for elementary based learning. So we do code that to our elementary teachers, like in the kindergarten parameter. And compensatory, they redid the UFARs, Gatsby redid everything, so it's geared towards that, teaching those one-on-one that aren't targeted and that aren't special ed, but giving those compensatory dollars for more specialized instruction. And then we have learning and development. It's part of that basic aid package, but it's also unreserved restricted that is geared towards learning and development of our children. So they say you're gonna get $6 million in basic aid formula, but you have to take this pot of money out and use it for that specific finance code. And then we do get Title I, which is also expense-based, and Title II, expense-based. You have to expense it, and then you get the money once you expense it. Carl Perkins works the same way. All these federal dollars that are flow-throughs from the state are all expense-based. And then we have career and tech levy dollars. So it looks like our total unreserved revenue to date, without changing our APUs, will be $9,828,586. To date, we have received 1.629 million. So we're about 14% of where we need to be, which is pretty close. The state does keep 90 or give us 90% through the year and keep 10% for any adjustments. And then we do receive that through the fall, November usually of the following year. Go ahead. And when you guys' eyes start to glaze over, I'll go fast. So now this is the expense. I know it's small. And I could have broke these expenses into two categories. And I know I did give the board, I don't know if Randy looked at them, but we did email the spreadsheets to the board to review. I broke it down very categorically because I want you guys to see exactly where these expenses are going and how much actually is salaries and benefits, because basically 80 to 82% of our expenses are salaries and benefits. So we have school board, salaries and benefits. Yeah, you guys don't make a lot of money, sorry. Office of the Superintendent, General Administration, District Office Support. That would be our payroll. HR payroll would be in there if that was it. Business Services would be an HR Director, Business Manager, Finance Specialist, Activities Director portion. I did break out the AP, AD portion, so that got broken out. Technology, salaries and benefits, and the list goes on and on and on. So I did break it out by program, so you guys can actually see what program, obviously elementary and high school instructional is gonna be the largest portion of our, when it should be, the largest portion of our expense. So we have expensed almost, over $750,000 of that, which is right on par. So our non-salary expenses are purchase services, supplies and instructional supplies and regular supplies, equipment, non-capitalized, because this is our unreserved fund, our operating budget, but not operating capital, and memberships. So our purchase services are high, obviously, because we've had some large expenses on the books because of ESSER. I've booked those expenses. We haven't expensed them yet. We've got some repairs going on. And the 500 series, that HVAC is in there, and some of the tech stuff is in there. So you're seeing higher expenses in the non-salaries because of ESSER, but remember it's expensed and we'll receive it. And I did make sure that the checks and balances are there for revenues and expenses. So to date, with the amount of APUs we have, Looks like we're about $204,000 deficit spending with the APUs we have in this budget. Two reasons. We increase of salary and benefits, and most of it is we've increased our sub costs dramatically because of COVID. That makes sense. I did add another position in the business office, and our purchase services, obviously because of ESSER. So we do have some of those costs that are out there. Next. Now we're gonna go into the oh, hold on a second. All right, where are you at? Yes. We're gonna go into the total fund one, which includes all of our revenue that I've booked for fund one, including operating capital, LTFM, staff development, safe schools, career and tech, everything that has its own fund balance included in our on reserve. Looks like we're gonna book $10.4 million, on 10.403 almost, in revenue. And we haven't collected a lot of money, but keep in mind that I haven't done the bank rec for October because we're still in October. We have collected ideas dollars. That's how we collect our state revenue. It's just that I don't show those.
Because it's not reconciled.
Right, I don't ever lock those and account for those until I know they're correct and I can reconcile my bank statement. The bank statement, not mine, those districts. So they're here, it's just that you won't see that until we talk about November. So let's go through the expenses. You wanna? So the expenses for the operating capitals, is that right? I don't, looks like I don't have that right. That is not good. I switched it because that's not good. I was reformatting and I got disturbed. Sorry. That is my fault. I will correct that. But it looks like we're gonna have a $413,000 deficit in the total total fund one. And that is mostly to do with the assigned fund balance. I did book we had this 204, and I did book some of the HVAC, and we had the roof repair in the assigned fund balance. So that does show as an expense on our general fund. But when we pay it out, it goes off that assigned fund balance. But right now it just hangs out there has nowhere to go but off of where our revenue already is. But when I close books at the end of the year, it gets assigned to that 462. So if the board so wishes that HVAC project to go into 462 into the assigned fund balance. So I will fix that. That is my fault. I got interrupted in my reformatted the wrong one. That's my fault. Apologize. So we will fix that. We're gonna go into fund two. This is our food service fund. Again, I have most of the food service fund is booked off of another expense base. We right now are still all free meals, and it sounds like we are just, I don't know if Joel's been told by Barb, but we are just, we're serving more kids and more meals than we've ever served. Last Friday we served, and Thursday 603 meals in this middle school, high school. That's a record. I mean, so it means it's a lot of seconds and a lot of meals. So we're doing pretty good out there. So, I mean, and that's good for us. They're doing pretty good. So I did book, it's hard to tell because the last year and a half has been COVID. So it's hard for us to determine where our revenues are gonna be because it's new. The cost of meals is different. So I did go in and I determined that we were gonna have about 508,000 through flow through our free meals through the state and federal, because some of our meals that we get state reimbursement. It's still a free meal, and some of it we do get federal reimbursement. Most of it's federal through the state.
Does that work the same way? Do we have to expense it and then we get reimbursed? That's a totally different deal than when there's not, when the state's not paying for it. You know,
No,
because
we-
otherwise the money's there and then
We always have to expense it.
we do.
We always have to upfront our costs. And then we can draw it. We can go in and ask for it, and then it's usually there a week or two later.
Okay.
So this one, I think we're gonna have more than 508, because who knew we were gonna have 500-600 meals a day. So I was working off last year's numbers and the year before, which is in the high threes, so I think we're gonna have a really good year in food service, so that's a good thing. And our reimbursement rates are a little higher because of the seamless summer program that we're on this year. So not a lot higher, but a little bit. And our expenses, 496,000, so we will see net gain. So, and I do expect a bigger net gain. We still have some deferred revenue that I had to book because there's still money out there that parents had on the books from a year ago that we have to move as deferred revenue because they're not using it as they're getting free meals, which I have to show as deferred and move it over to the next year. So we have about 18,000 on the books that we have to keep moving. So we always want to make sure we net more than 18,000. So otherwise we're showing a loss in that, which we won't. It's going really well. So they're doing a great job. The food's going well. I think the elementary is doing a good job. So I will rework this here soon and make sure that I have some good numbers in the last 2 weeks when we had some pretty record numbers. So it looks like we're gonna come up with a gain there. Community service, yes, I am gonna for the next, I think for the working session, I think I'm gonna break this down, and I will give this to Christine, because I'll still be here for the working session. I am gonna break this down into the different categories of community service, because the recreation part of community service, the youth enrichment and the adult, obviously, and math is doing really well now. Preschool is actually doing pretty well now. We are full in everything, so that's going well. But I want to break it down because there's one program I think that will show a little bit of a deficit in for next year, or coming at the end of this year. But Telltale, community service as a whole will show a gain. I'm showing revenues of 359,000 and expenses of 321,000. So, but I will have it more broke down because I think it's important that you guys see each program, because they are broke into, there's adult enrichment, there's preschool, there's ECFD, which we don't have. Mid-State takes care of that for us. So we have a menagerie of programs that fall under this umbrella, and I think we need to break them down so you guys can see that. So I'll probably bring that to the work session. We'll talk about it, and then see how you want to approach that from there. Because I do think preschool will show a little bit of a deficit at the end of this year. And then I think we're going to move on. If there aren't any questions, again, I apologize for that.
Any questions? Okay.
I said the same thing. Okay, so this is a presentation that Dr. Rickamp had proposed as a presentation about a month ago. We are bringing it back to the table as another presentation, as a reminder, and how important this is to our children, to our community, and to the staff, as an equality issue, and to to that elementary building. I think this building is gonna be around a very long time. I think it's built like a fortress. So I think it's important that we do the upgrades that we need to do and make it usable and sustainable for a long time. So some of what we proposed for the non-ESSER funds, because we had agreed as a board and as a community that, excuse me, we were gonna use ESSER funds for some of the HVAC project. There was some parameters set. So the non-ESSER funds, the elementary HVAC gym project totaled about 72,400. So the elementary gym will receive an AC unit to dehumidify the gym. And the high school HVAC project totaled approximately 199,400. And that will have a rooftop air handling unit replaced. And the high school, that will pretty much complete the building, correct, Joel? So those two projects, the cost of those to get that completed will cost $271,800. So we have assigned fund balance at $370,500 because keep in mind, we did use some for the roof repairs that we had set aside previously. So if using the assigned fund balance for the projects, the revised assigned fund balance will be remaining left at $98,700. So the assigned fund balance at 1.796 million, that's approximately what it was ending June 30th. If we don't use that, it'll be around 1,525,000, and I do have a static amount now because we have closed our books. We are meeting with the auditor next week, so we will have that for you. But that'll leave our fund balance at approximately 23%. If we net no gain or loss in the fiscal year 21-22, and we could net a loss deficit spending this coming year. Go ahead. So our recommendation to the board as administration is to definitely use that assigned fund balance. That's what it was set aside for. It is definitely administration's recommendation to keep that unreserved fund balance at that 26 to 27%. It is crucial, especially without an operating levy. That is what our savings account is in case anything happens. So upgrading HVAC system in the elementary using the assigned fund balance of 72.5, and upgrading the high school remaining HVAC for 199,400. Excuse me. Total cost from assigned fund balance is 271,800. I still feel that it's a recommendation from administration to use that. I highly recommend that we do that. You just don't want to put yourself in a position as a school board or a district to use that unassigned. It's your warm fuzzy. I don't think this district's ever gonna want an operating referendum. We're one of the lucky districts in the whole state that doesn't have an operating referendum. We only have that 300 and 425 that we run off of, and our numbers are down yet. I expected some growth, but you just don't know until the students are in the building, and I haven't seen it yet. If we were to gain 12 kids, that would have been great, but we haven't gained those kids from what I've seen. Our numbers are pretty close to what they were last year, within 2 children, actually. So I feel like I'd rather be safe than sorry. That's my recommendation. You guys can discuss it, but I think as administration, Dr. Camp can probably speak more to that, but that's how I would view it. If we had more children coming in and we were rebounding faster, it would make a difference, but we're just not there yet.
Okay, discussion. Go ahead, Tara.
So with the request for those documents that we're thinking could be about 40,000,
Well,
where,
I've seen it that high.
Yeah.
but let's say worst case scenario, it does
Yeah.
cost a big chunk. Where, like, does that, before we approve taking on all these funds, I want to make sure we're still covered. since now we have this expense coming.
Yeah, can you go back a slide, previous slide? Yeah, it would come out of, it would come out of the, unassigned fund balance, so it would definitely, because
We can't,
that's the only thing, funding stream we could really use.
we don't
So
have a
that-
choice, yeah.
yeah.
That would be this unassigned expense. And that's a very huge expense that in my mind is, I don't know, it's an unnecessary if we can help it. I mean, we always budget for these costs, but that's 0.5%, a little over 0.5% on our fund balance.
Right, so if we
So
took
keep
this
that in
from that
mind.
as well, then it's gonna go bump down even.
Does anyone have questions for me, or is this just open discussion that Dr. Burkhead can answer?
I have one question for you. What happens, because these bids are getting on 3 or 4 months old?
Tony's doing a really good job with,
Holding them guys to it?
yeah, he's in
Okay.
constant contact with our, you know, and I'm gonna
It's
be
not that we're
honest,
dragging our feet, but it's just, you
No.
know,
the biggest factor right now isn't that, it's this performance bond. And I shouldn't even laugh because it's a tragedy, but, you know, that's gonna cause, that's another thing, but that's gonna happen no matter what. When we have this other ESSER money that you guys have already approved, that's gonna all fall under the same umbrella, so we're gonna already include that under ESSER, so, he's doing a really good job. He's got a really good rapport with these people, and he's
Wow.
had it for a long time, so I think.
public finance doesn't move real fast, so.
No, and they're all aware of that. I mean, it's just you guys, it's a discussion you guys have to have, and you have to be cognizant of where you're comfortable.
Any other questions for Don? You can sit down. if you
I
like.
just want to say this will be my last regular board meeting,
Oh.
I'm assuming, so unless we don't have a new business manager, so I just want to say you guys have been a pleasure to work with, and thanks for having me.
You too.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks so much.
All right, so we asked the administration to come back with what it would cost to do these other projects this month, and they came back and gave us a presentation, so discussion on it.
So this finishes the high school, what's left on the elementary then? Or does this finish both of them? Right.
Yeah,
If
this-
everything's
This
done,
gets it done.
Yeah, because the ESSER does the rest of the
the
elementary
rest of the
building.
elementary,
So
in my opinion. I'm in favor personally. I think it's gonna be better air quality. I think it's gonna be better, more comfortable. You know, I heard some of the kids at the elementary had to go home because they didn't feel good at the earlier start of the school because it was so hot in their classroom. So I mean, it is affecting the children. And I know here they have a lot of AC, but it'd be nice to have it everywhere.
And this is the assigned fund balance is what we should use. to do
Yeah.
it, So
And I agree.
Yep.
So, sounds like we're probably gonna beat a horse here, so. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion.
Been moved by Director Hofstad, is there a second?
1 second.
Moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Bauman to approve the upgrades to the HVAC system using assigned fund balance dollars. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All who oppose? All who abstain? Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, moving on to approval of donations by resolution. So I got the resolution here in my hand. So this is for the Minnesota Signature Care is generally offered to donate $4,392 to the Railton Community Education Program. And the American Legion has generously offered to donate $10,000 to the girls softball project and $2,000 to the boys uniforms, baseball uniforms. And the Railton Lions Club has generously offered to donate $350 to the Railton FFA This donation comes from the petting zoo that was set up during the Platte River Day. Paso Breeze American Legion Post number 473 has generously offered to donate $1,000 in appreciation for the help of setting up the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall when it came to Rice. The following programs will receive $200 each: boys wrestling, the football program, baseball program, boys basketball, and track and field. Somebody want to move this?
Yes.
And does somebody want to duly second it?
I'll second.
And Director Hofstad, will you call the roll?
Director Bowman,
Aye.
Director Garrett,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, aye. Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Warren.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the vote or the resolutions approved unanimously on this day, 25th day of October, 2021. Alrighty, going on. We got wrestling overnight tournament in Fargo, Rumble on the Red. Sounds like professional wrestling.
Yeah, so, when you go out of state, stay overnight, out of state, generally like to give it to school board for your blessing, your approval. This is a big tournament. There's over 67 teams there. Not every squad has a full team in the varsity tournament, but there's 12 mats on one side of the Fargo Dome, 12 mats on the other side of the JV. You wrestle all day on the 29th, come back the next day. Then they've got the youth tournament going on the south half, and the north half, we got the JV and varsity tournament. They wrestle all the way through in the finals. The finals are on the stage right in the middle. It's a pretty neat tournament that we'd like to go to. They go up there. Typically what you do is on the 28th, we did like one, you get up there, you practice, coaches have a meeting that they're required to attend, and then they go back to the hotel, they hang out. Next morning, they get up, weigh in at 8, wrestle at 9, then you kind of get down to the final 12 for that day. You come back, you weigh in again, finish it out. Generally done by 5, home by 7:30-ish. So it's busy, but it's fun. Generally what the school district covers in a situation like this would be entry fee, bus driver, bus, and then hotels, and food would be covered by student activities account. So the school district is bearing all that cost, and the wrestling club is willing to do that for us as well. So.
This question, do you have quite a few chaperones then for the kids, or is that just kind of a, because I once had teenagers and
Wrestlers are, especially when you gotta weigh in, the 29th and the 30th, they're generally really good. When I was there for the state wrestling tournament 2 years ago, the kids were really, really good. Terry has them on their best behaviors. The coach is there to supervise. It's not like they're leaving them behind, going out to have dinner, whatever. They're there for business. They're compete. So.
how many people are there to, I mean, how many students first of all are involved in this, and then how many people are actually there to monitor a little bit? That's, I guess, my question.
Yeah, we've got 37 people 37 kids between Royalton and Upsala. And then as far as coaches, we actually just found out this today. Our head assistant, Shane Fessmeyers, is taking a job in Grand Rapids. So he's gonna be leaving us, but we've got somebody to cover. So, we're looking at 4 or 5 adults with the kids as well. So
That's a pretty good ratio.
It is.
Yeah.
and especially when you get down and, I've been on both ends where all right, well, I've got these 3 kids that I gotta make sure I get to their mat site for the varsity, and then I've also got
these 4 kids that gotta get to the JV. So you're running across the gym and they've got on the big screens, they got matches and who's up when, and you just kind of run across and check in with them, and it's busy.
Sounds like fun.
It is. It is.
Sounds like fun.
That smells wonderful.
Uh-huh.
It's right.
All right, so what he's looking for is board approval. I'll move it for discussion. I'll second. It was moved by Director Hackett, and seconded by Director Garrett's to approve the wrestling overnight tournament for our girl. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, boys basketball fundraiser, gold card sales.
We haven't done this one in a while. It's been before my time. Before the football team had done gold card sales in the past. They haven't done it for a number of years, and now boys basketball head coach Jeremy Albright brought it up, and just very delicate about whose it was and making sure that you don't step on toes of taking somebody else's fundraiser. But he had the blessing of the football program to go ahead with it. The company is Adrenaline. They do a lot of these around the state. They're really good to work with. They get involved. They're the ones calling businesses looking for, can you put your stuff on the card. I talked to Coach Albright this morning and asked a little more information about businesses, making sure that some of our local establishments are on there. And they will be contacted as well going up to the Falls, St. Cloud in our area. So it's not going to be national chains now in the cities or anything like that. They're looking to kind of supplement just practice jerseys, equipment, supplies, different types of things. $20 a card is what they go for. Because Adrenaline kind of sets everything up. The first 499 cards, the profits are split 50-50, and 500 plus, it's a 60-40 split. So you get $12 per card over the 20. We're looking to do this in a very short time frame, November 22nd to December 3rd. It's kind of their timeline of selling, and then they're when we're done at focus of the season as they're getting going.
Maybe a question on that one?
So they've done this before. How many did they sell last time? What's our expected sell rate for those?
You have an idea?
Football's been anywhere between. We make our own card. But we have sold anywhere between, I think the highest was 611. And the 300, 250, somewhere in there on the low end.
Makes sense.
I would guess that 499 is one of the numbers that you can get right up to.
Yep.
They got it figured out, trust me. Whatever.
I know
I'm not
fundraisers.
opposed to it.
Fundraisers, there's a lot of people that just say, I just want to give them cash. I don't need stuff. I don't want stuff. But when you do those things, it can get kind of carry with
Cash. Yeah, it's my
Cash
best friend.
donations and so.
All right,
I'll motion.
been moved by Director Bauman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Director Bauman, second by Director Hofstad to approve the boys basketball fundraiser of the gold cards. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, moving on to the board policy review revision procedure. You guys got your packet or whatever, had that in there, you everybody get to see it? Anybody understand it all the way?
From what I understood, Mr. Chair, the policy reading gets to be kind of redundant. And so
Yes, it does.
Yes, so we've gotten information from SBA to change some, just of the verbiage, using the term persons instead of him or her, or, that type of thing. Those are minor changes, and really those policies with the minor changes, they really don't need a lot of discussion. So I think what we had agreed on was that we will read them once, and then we'll bring them to the board the second time. But if you have, is that what we agreed on? Yes, okay, just refresh me. But anyhow, by doing that, we can get these policies looked at in a better and quicker fashion. And also, it's just a lot of, if you look at it, it's just terminology.
A lot of
It's-
those revisions
Yeah, it
are
really is
just
just-
legal stuff. It's
Well,
not, it
yeah,
doesn't change. So according to MSBA, if it changes the spirit of the
Of the
policy,
policy,
pretty
right.
much is when you really.
See,
need to
and
do it.
then some of them, they just took out things that were very redundant, the red lines, okay? These are just kind of unnecessary. I would have called them run-on sentences if I was was teaching. They were just not really things that were needed in the policy. So they kind of went through that too and gave us recommendations on that. So that cleared up a lot of stuff. It's kind of like the talent you have with looking at things and knowing, how to set them up. That's a great talent, a great gift, really. You had been my student, I would give you an A. Anyhow, but there are some things though that do need to be looked at. I mean, it's not because MSBA, they've got a whole legal team. We've got one. I mean, we can't even compare to what they're doing. But I still think those are things we do need to review to make sure that they fit our district, that they fit Royalton 485. Now, there's some that I felt were no problem at all. There are some things that just minor things. For example, on 40, well, if you have it on policy 206, the revision says 2017. Well, the revision probably should be 21. That's when we're looking at it. So let's get all that little stuff, try and look at these things a little bit. Yeah, I'm just saying, but really, because it just makes it so much clearer and easier to get those policies moving, get them in place, put them there so we've got them to fall back on. Because really, these just need a little cleaning, that's all they need.
Well,
Now, some need a little
The-
discussion.
the thing is that a lot of these policies are supposed to be read every year and some of them are every 3 years.
Right,
With the cumbersome 3 reading, we can't get through enough policies in the time to get through them. Christine, you care to talk about the
Yeah.
top of them, and the way it's gonna change those?
Yeah, so what's gonna be helpful, I think, well, and I'll just comment, so like you were saying, some policies have to be reviewed annually, but that doesn't mean they'll make a change. You just have to, as a committee, look at them. In that case, there is no need for a board approval. The board has to have all seen it, but you don't have to approve it if there was no change made. So what we're gonna do at the top is we're gonna have a reviewed, I want to spell it out, because it was REV and then you have revised, and that's too confusing. So a reviewed, so if that annual policy was reviewed, but it didn't have a change, that date will be updated. On the left-hand side, you'll have the revised, you'll have the implementation date, start date of it, and then the revised. And so then we know if it was revised, then it comes for either a 2 readings or even 3, for some of those more substantive changes.
Because it says REV on the one side. You have to go back in the minutes to find out if it was reviewed or revised.
Yeah, so it gets confusing, so we're gonna spell them.
I'm not sure what the REV stands for.
Well,
Yeah.
revise or revision.
All right. So just so everybody knows that's what we're gonna go through with, but from now on policy. Our policy readings, like I said before, first reading on 206, 413, 501. 102, 406, 425, 503, 507, and 534. Second reading on policy 902. You want to talk about this?
Yeah, so we're requesting to rescind policy 430 and 431. MSBA doesn't have these policies. These are on hiring substitute teachers. And in it, it even has a letter of understanding, which I'm not familiar with using. And basically, the board chair would need to sign off on any hire, a letter, they have to fill out a letter with the person. It just doesn't make sense, it's not, we already have hiring guidelines and processes for HR process, and this seems,
This is stuff we passed last year, in the middle of COVID, when we couldn't find subs. Remember? And it's caused some problems because the tier rate for subs, but then in other policy and other contracts, we refer to that, but it doesn't refer to what rate. So, it's one of those things where you make a change one place and it's got a domino effect. So
And-
we're gonna request to rescind that.
it wasn't clearly written either, so I
Yeah.
think what it was trying to get to, we didn't really get there.
I think that letter of understanding too, like you said, we did it during COVID, not knowing, and now, well, that's probably not. That won't work.
Well, I think it was put together pretty hastily, that's.
Yep.
So, any other questions about policies? We're gonna move on to meeting protocol pathway discussion. So, I don't know if you guys have watched any of the news and stuff, but there's a lot of, school board meetings that are ending up in some pretty big discourse. And we have a policy on public input and the way the meeting runs. But I think we should just take a look at it, and I think it's probably something every board, if not every board chair change, but every board, especially, not that we're a unique board, but we have 50% new members, less than a year. This is a different board than it was when that policy was enacted. We should look at the policy, and I think we're gonna put it on a work session, and we can have a big discussion about it, but I just want you guys to be thinking about what you want the meetings to look like. It is the pleasure of the chairman to run the meeting as formal or informal as he chooses, but I'd like to have a discussion with the board too, because I feel like it's a whole board discussion, and I just want you guys to be thinking about it, and we can, the last thing I want is total discourse in here, and I don't want anybody to feel like they haven't been heard. So, and that's a balancing act. So as a chairman, I would like to have that discussion at the work session, so. All right, and then we move on to superintendent evaluation. So we've effectively kicked this can down the road for like 3 months already. I think we should schedule to have MSBA come in and work with us with one. I don't know what anybody else thinks. Everybody also on board with that?
How about we do it the 18th at 6 p.m.
18th of what?
November, sorry,
Oh,
November.
yes. I didn't know we were in October just a couple minutes ago. I'm fine with that. Is everybody else fine with that? All right. Who wants to try to get a hold of MSBA?
I'll do it.
Perfect.
Check that box. It's already booked.
All right. All right, that's great. Well, that ends that one, so. Okay, now we got our amended, item K is the amended deal for the prom location. Do you want to speak to that at all, Joel, or? you just-
Well, I can. This is, by the way, it's actually a student activity, comes out of student activity fund, and really doesn't need board approval, but it's been getting board approval for, I guess, 10 years, so we're
Yeah,
bringing it
as
back.
long as I can remember, it's got board approval,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's a step that probably doesn't have to be there, but it is right now, so, they have gone ahead and, got a quote from Kylie Moon Grill and, want to use Trobec's bus service for, the prom. I saw the menu too. Oh my gosh, you might have to go supervise.
Sunday morning's pretty good there.
Yeah,
Sunday morning approach is pretty good, so. All right, so anybody want to move this?
Yep, I'll move it.
All right, moved by Director Garretts, seconded by Director Hackett to approve the prom location of the Coyote Moon and the use of the Trobex bus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. All right, upcoming meeting schedule. Tuesday, October 26th, that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. finance meeting. Where's the Native American thing? It's on Wednesday, right?
That's on Tuesday night, tomorrow.
That's Tuesday
Tomorrow
morning?
night.
That's not on.
No, I don't know, there should be. And World's Best Workforce is Wednesday.
World Best Workforce is Wednesday. Right, that might have on there, so. November 8th, 6 p.m. is work session, followed by a closed session. November 9th at 8 a.m. is a policy meeting.
Is there any way we can change that? I can't be there that day either.
We can change that.
Any other time that week works that day, just.
Just not sure.
How about Wednesday? The following day, the 10th.
Works for me.
I'm good.
Good.
Wednesday, the 10th,
Do you want to do 8 or
is that fine with you?
could you do 9?
Sure. 9 o'clock,
I have it 8 o'clock.
it's perfect. Works for everybody then. All right. And the 16th, there's a finance meeting at noon. The 18th of November, we have a superintendent evaluation with MSBA. And Monday, November 22nd, we have a regular board meeting followed by a closed session. Any other meetings that aren't on here? All right. Somebody want to move, we close for a negotiation strategy?
So
Second? Moved by Director Hofstad and seconded by Director Bauman to move into closed meeting for negotiation strategies as permitted by Minnesota State Statute Section 13D.05 subdivision 3A. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0-0. We'll take a we'll reconvene at closed session at 7:25. So, thank you.